brand licensing is changing, retail is changing, consumerism in general is changing. So, I mean, focusing on brand licensing, how do you see this as a business model, as an industry, becoming more creative in terms of the products we create, the way we collaborate, the way we communicate between licensee, licensor, retailer? How are you seeing like a big creative change happening in brand licensing?
You don't see, it's not sudden step changes. What we are seeing is the growing importance of joining all those different elements together, and everybody now wants to see those dots join together, and that's just becoming increasingly important. It hasn't suddenly happened, it's been around for some time now, but that's the element that I find most exciting, because now no longer is licensing one-dimensional. Licensing needs so many different components that have to be joined up in order to create success that it makes it fascinating industry to be in. The days of just putting a product into retail and hoping it will sell have long gone. It's a much more mature, grown-up industry than it was 20 years ago. And I think it's the better for it. It's much more creative. We got the opportunity to talk direct to consumers. We get feedback direct from consumers. The market research that goes on behind the scenes to understand how consumers are interacting, not just with the product that you see that spins out of a show like this, but the content, the depth of understanding we now have of markets, consumers, the industry is enormous and benefit to everybody.
The imagination is something that you can't possibly imagine the places that this could go.
Mm-hmm.
We've obviously got a number of brands that we kind of look at and go, well, there's some wild ideas that we could have in terms of, take a brand like Pepperami, so many things that we could do with that brand, that kind of resonates with the consumer and so forth. So what we try to do is kind of push the boundary a little bit for the brand, and
Mm-hmm.
we gradually think that we could get them to move a little bit on these things as well. But I think that's really where most brands are going to go as well, because the more they see it, the more they're probably going to see. It's almost like giving permission for it to go to places where it's never been before, And some of the really interesting things is how a food brand will adapt into a trend. For example, there was a trend a while ago for Far East language and Far East text on a brand. So you might end up with, for example, and we have seen this, a Kellogg range of product in Europe or in the UK with Far East text on it, just because that happens to be on trend. So I think there's going to be more of that happening.
It's really about the product is the first point of connection between the fans and the brand. Unfortunately, it's not going at the stadium, because you can't have 20 million people that are actually following your club on Instagram in the stadium. Mm-hmm. So it's not the stadium. You can't have everybody watching the game because of the time zone, because of the streaming channel not being available. So at the end, the easiest path connection between your fan and your club is the product.
Mm-hmm.
So to educate your fans, you need to have product. You have to have product relevant, and since I'm doing that job, I've been doing sports licensing in my career, but I've been fighting against, I hate when we do pink products for women. I hate that. I hate when we do, when we think we have to have a toy character on the product if it's a kid.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end, I'm talking apparel here, but everybody says, women is difficult to understand. No, it's not. Otherwise, Bershka, Mango, H&M, we have failed by doing so. It's really about, you don't take the time. It's really about, if you want to have your woman coming to your product, first, you need to put together an actual study on who is buying your oversized t-shirt. Do you think it's all men's? You know what I mean?
Definitely not, yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you think you can do better? Maybe it's not about what you put on the product, maybe it's about the shape, maybe it's about the fabric, but you need to put together an actual study about your customer. You need to take a chance. So I think the licensing business is very creative, it's very responsive, and we have opportunities to, and especially in sports, we can do much. You said we are third. I think we could be second. First is going to be tough.
Mm-hmm. Always, yes.
Well, I think we could be much better because we have so untapped territories, categories, retailers, distribution levels, consumer, so much to do.
Licensing, it's creativity, and you know, in licensing, we are always working on the creative idea to mix two brands or to mix. For example, for us, we have worked with. I don't know if it's well famous in England, but with Monkey Key, it's a well-known monkey plush in France with a yellow jersey, and we that's a plush that a lot of people born in 80s and 90s very know that in France, and it works very well. And I think the licensing, it enables us to create an original and creative story, and that's the power of licensing finally.
Well, I think to say is it's a bit of theme that what I called old school licensing, where 5 years we did deals, we created products, and then we renewed or not renewed contracts. Is that nowadays you need to be surprising. Let's say consumers can tap into everything, if it's online or on brick and mortar. Let's say the visibility is very high of what the offerings are. So you need to be surprising, and I think, let's say, coming up with collaboration. So if you, for instance, look at Teletubbies with Christopher Cowan and doing a high-end collaboration in spaces where you won't exist Teletubbies to be, but we see it on our Peanuts brands as well. Sorbet Shortcake is with high-end designers, but also with high-end bakeries, for instance. It's those spaces where people won't expect your brand, but actually once they see it and experience it, it actually is a really added value. That's, I think, where really the fun parts and the creative part and the colorful part comes into play.
Yeah, so the great thing is, Hasbro has a portfolio of amazing brands. And, as a toy company, we focus on some franchises that manufacture the toys, but for the most part, we have so many brands, we actually work with other toy companies or other licensees to manufacture products, including toys. For us, it's all about innovation, right? We can take an item like Easy Bake Oven, for example, that Hasbro used to manufacture. They hadn't innovated in many years, able to go to a partner like Just Play, and we're actually reintroducing Easy Bake Oven with new technology and new SKUs around the world. So not only do we have just a generic oven, we're going to have multiple food items that kids can play with for years to come.
Well, licensing is an exceptional business model that connects brands. And just by bringing two strong brands together and encouraging the collective thinking of both companies' marketing teams, licensing serves as a creative playground for brands, so where each party can bring their expertise to drive innovation.
Yeah, this industry is incredibly creative, and as a licensor, it's great to rely on the creativity of the licensees to propose more experience to the fans.
Insufficiently, I would say. I think that's something we've been talking about for a while. And I think the intention is there. Some of the benchmarks are there, but it's scary, isn't it? To let go of your brand a little bit, to let them be more creative, to let us be more creative. So I think as brands themselves, most of the time are being more creative, developing, like adapting their style guides a bit faster for consumer needs, being more playful with content. So I am incredibly excited about and in a way proud of our clients Coolaby for working with the fandom on the development of Roblox game. That is a part of being more playful and more creative with your brand, but that those are scary initiatives for people to take, and I think there aren't many examples of a brand that has allowed the fandom to be more playful. Like I do have other examples, but they're not within this industry. You wouldn't find people here, but a musician, I think it was Kanye West, he's released an album along with like a mixing opportunity, like software which allows you to mix his tunes and create your own kind of songs and mixes around it. It's quite bold. People would play with some of the slightly less meaningful things. So I think Lil Nas X asked people how many songs he should have on an album. And whilst that can be an exciting decision for the fandom, it's kind of neither here nor there on creativity. I think people have done similar things around art or pick this or that. Influencers are doing tell me what to do today, and then people vote for it. So we get these like smaller snippets, but I think the boldness of the level of let's remix it, let you play, I think we are yet to see more. I mean, Nike does it with shoes. You can personalize shoes. I think Lego asking people to submit ideas for sets to be made, and those sets getting made are other meaningful examples. So there are a few, if you think of them, but considering how many exhibitors we have here, it's an incredibly difficult thing to achieve, but one where I think we can build more fandom opportunities.